Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Not Just Ghost Stories. I'm your host, Josh, along with Laura and Jackie. We are a group of paranormal investigators, and on this podcast, we will discuss different locations that we've investigated, along with a little history and evidence that we found. Today, we will be discussing history and evidence about Whispers Estates located in Mitchell, Indiana. Laura, can you tell us a little bit about that history, please?
Whispers Estate was originally built in 1894 by Dr. George and Sarah White. They lived there from that time till they sold the house somewhere between 1899 and 1901 to Dr. John and Jessie Gibbons. At this time, Dr. John Gibbons ran his practice out of their home for 26 years. Dr. and Mrs. Gibbons were also known to take in and adopt children who had lost their parents. The children that we were able to find in history are Rachel, Elizabeth, and Helen. In 1912, Rachel, 10 years old at that time, went downstairs to peek at her Christmas presents. While trying to do so, she knocked over a candle and caught herself on fire. 2 days later, in the upstairs bedroom, she did die from her wounds. Date unknown, Elizabeth, 10 months old at the time, died in the master bedroom from unknown causes. And in 1934, Mrs. Jessie Gibbons passed away in the house from pneumonia. After Jessie passed away, Dr. John Gibbons and his adopted daughter, Helen, are the only ones that were living in the home. During that time, Helen tried to have Dr. Gibbons committed, accusing him of touching women inappropriately. 10 years after the passing of his wife, Dr. John Gibbons died at the age of 71. The house was left to Helen, where she lived until she passed away at the age of 82 years old in 1994. We have found no record of who owned the house after Helen Gibbons, but we do have a record of a few deaths in the house. One in 1966, where a gentleman died in the upstairs bathroom. There's a record of a boy falling down the stairs to his death in 1974, along with his father, who came to the house a few days later to collect some items of his son's and had a heart attack and passed away. In 2006, after having sat vacant for a while, it was bought, started to renovate, and the activity started to pick up. The house was then sold to the current owners in 2007. The reports in the home are a portal that runs from the first floor to the attic at the front of the house. On the first floor, where Dr. Gibbons' practice was, women have heard him whisper in their ears, along with being grabbed, sometimes inappropriately. A large black shadow has also been reported. Rachel has been heard giggling and running on the second floor of the home, along with pushing balls off of the bedpost in her room. People in the master bedroom complain of it being hard to breathe, and it is thought due to Jessie dying from pneumonia. Along with the closet door handles jiggling and opening, in the attic there have also been reports of shadows and people having nightmares in the upstairs attic bedroom.
All right, Laura, thank you for the history on Whispers. One thing I will say about Whispers to start off with is driving up to the house and just looking at it is a really cool thing. It's got two angel statues right at the front entrance of the house and almost gives off a weird energy vibe thing from the house. Jackie, what do you think about your first impression?
Oh, yeah. Plus, 2 doors down the street is a mortuary that's still working and stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it does look like something you'd see in a horror movie that you know that when people driving up, they're all going to die.
Yeah, true. Laura, what was your first impressions?
Mine is definitely drawn to the angels. They're not like happy, fluffy angels. They're more like sentry angels, like they're standing guard. I don't know if that's to keep out or to keep in.
True. And then once we got inside the house, for me, the energy was just crazy inside this house. I do remember, bringing things in and having things start to happen almost immediately through our walkthrough. Jackie, you want to talk about that a little bit?
As you enter the front door, you go up onto the porch, enter through the front door. You're in a hallway. To the right of you is the stairs going upstairs. To the left of you is a living room. Straight ahead is the dining room. That's where we use it as command central. We set our equipment, and that's where we first gyrated to. we bringing in our equipment and kind of sitting around discussing, what we're going to do and things like that. We were the only ones in the house. Our guide was there, but they have a bedroom in the back, and you never see or hear them. So there were four of us. We were all in the same room, and as we're sitting there discussing, we hear a growl in that front hallway that we've just passed through.
Yeah. Laura, do you remember that growl?
Absolutely. First growl I've ever heard ghost hunting.
Yeah. I remember my heart start racing a little bit. I remember at that point we decided, well, okay, we need to do a walk through this house just to kind of start figuring out what's going on. So we grabbed the guide. I always take a recorder on a walkthrough and a flashlight, of course, just in case. Jackie, you grabbed your recorder, correct?
I did, and I might have also grabbed K2 because we had the growl, and it was obviously going to be active a lot of times at K2, so you can start getting baseline readings or start seeing the spikes.
Yeah. And I mean, just the walkthrough as we started to go through the house, for me, like I said, energy was just running rampant through the house. You could just get this feeling. Like I said, my heart was already racing just from the initial get go. But walking up the stairs and seeing and going into the bedrooms and kind of walking through things, going all the way up into the attic, I felt, a little crazy and dizzy going through the whole entire thing. Laura, do you remember the walkthrough?
Yeah, I remember before we did any of the walkthrough, this was the first ghost hunt I had been on where I wouldn't call it a safe ghost hunt. So for me, the initial steps were the protection before we even walked through the home. After that, it was status quo, pretty much flashlight and recorder.
Now, protection, what do you mean by protection?
More on a spiritual level, that this ghost hunt had places, or I guess we should say areas in the home where there are entities that are not of the purest kind.
Okay. Then that of course definitely gives you that unsafe feeling throughout the house. When you start to get those type of things, are we really looking at, is it unsafe or is it just a weird energy?
That's what our investigation. We don't right away start screaming evil. We need to get out. We start investigating and things. The thing about whispers too is that a lot of times as you enter a place, spirits will hang back. They don't know you. It's like anybody. If strangers come in your house, you're not going to be too forthcoming with them and stuff. You're going to be a little, self-contained and everything. Whispers did not start out that way. Whispers started out like almost as if not us looking for ghosts, but the ghosts going, we got some people here.
Yeah. And when that happened, like I said, from the get-go, you get a growl right off the bat. You're kind of looking at each other going, okay, what did we just walk into here?
Yeah, it was so distinct you almost wondered if you imagined it, just because it was so clear.
Yeah. I had already been on a few hunts, and this one here was just it was totally different. That's what I liked about it. So, as we're walking through the house, we've done our walkthrough. We've kind of decided what we're going to do. We've set up cameras. We've kind of walked through and did a whole bunch of different other things. We decided, okay, it's time to actually start investigation. And let's try to get some answers. I know that there were different areas throughout that whole entire place that really we got a lot of activity out of. One being, there's a closet upstairs on the second floor. We got some activity out of. The attic was really crazy for me. What do you guys remember about the attic?
Hang on, when you're going downstairs, there's an entity that likes to come behind you and push you down the stairs. So you walk up and down, you walk down those stairs. Hang on.
Yeah, I remember it tried to happen to me. It was almost like a feeling I'm going to fall, but then if it's just that feeling you got something pushing on your back saying, hey, just keep going. And it was really hard to wrap your head around as it's happening. But I just felt like I had to either run up or down the stairs in order to make sure something didn't happen to me. The front room, I guess that'd be considered the master bedroom. We had a lot of activity in there also. Laura, what do you remember about activity in there?
In the front room.
The front room where you were laying in the portal.
I lost time. I don't know what we did in that room.
Okay.
Remember?
Jackie, we'll go to you. What do you remember about the front room?
That was crazy. We were dealing with several things at once. That room does have a portal going through it. Portals open and close. There's also a little boy that plays. There's a big closet. It's almost like a little, like a nursery type thing, for a small child. He's in there. He's playing. Josh was you were sitting on the floor, and I believe you were watching him, and we could also see him kind of moving around in there and stuff. I was sitting on the bed where I couldn't really see into that room. He had to come out a little bit for me to see it. But what I was getting was the energy from the portal and also the energy from the little boy, which suddenly changed.
Yeah. Well, and during that change, like you said, I was sitting on the floor. I was actually had my back propped up against the door frame. And as I was sitting there, my hand actually felt like it got trapped to the floor, like something was sitting on it, standing on it. And that's when all energy just started to change inside that room for me. When that happened, it was like my arm was almost tensed fully up. Like, what's going on here? Why am I not able to move? I literally could not move my hand off the floor.
You looked like somebody was stepping on your arm.
Yeah.
Like your hand was flat on the floor. And when I looked at you and you said, I can't move, I just got the impression somebody was stepping on your arm.
Yeah. And my heart was racing, but I was almost confused. Like, what exactly was happening? It was a good, I'd probably say seconds of my hand being trapped before I could actually move it. During that point, we had, like I said, different energy feelings going on. Do you remember the energy shift?
Yes. For me, I was sitting in a folding chair, but it was very stable. And I'm inside a house, and this house, it may be old, but the floors are very stable. They weren't moving, but I just felt like my chair was going to be shoved over. I'm hanging onto the bed because I'm right next to the bed, and I believe there was a dresser next to me. And I've got myself propped on that, and my feet are propped on it. If people could have seen me, they would have thought, what the heck is going on? It looks like she's on a rolling ship. And I kept feeling the portal energy was kind of making me dizzy. But I also felt in the closet, I just kept thinking, something's coming. And it wasn't one of those, yay, yippee, something's coming. It's like, ooh, something's coming.
Yeah. Now, for our listeners, we're going to go over what a portal is. And we're also not asking Laura a whole lot of questions about the front room because there's things that happened that we were going to get into. So with that being said, how about we move to another room where we started having a lot of energy, which is that back closet. I remember walking into there and thinking, I'm being stared at. Something's sitting here looking at me. Laura, do you remember anything about that closet?
Well, this was one of my first scary ghost hunts. So Jackie sort of limited what I was allowed to do. So for the closet, I do remember coming toward the door of it, and it just, my heart was racing. And before I knew it, I just felt like I was going to be sick. Still not really for sure why, but every time I tried to go in there, it just didn't work out.
And then, Jackie, I know that you had been on a ghost hunt at this place before Laura and I had been there with you. I know that you had stuff happening there, but we also had stuff happening there. You want to explain a little bit about that also?
Yeah, that closet was wild and stuff. It was a narrow closet, and it sort of fanned out uh, the pitch of the roof came down so that you could only walk upright in like the first part of it, but you could go left or you could go right. The first time I went in there, I went to the right. The two people that were to the left of me were having experiences and feeling things, but I wasn't getting it until I switched places with them. And then I got the same thing they did. So the energy there is very localized, but it is very strong. I just remember, like Laura was, I was in there, and it's like I'm getting the feeling, get out, get out. But as it goes on, the intensity and the if it was somebody talking, it would have started out as a whisper, but as it went on, the intensity and his voice kept going higher and higher and higher until it was almost you had to leave. It wasn't something like, big brave ghost hunter, I'm going to stay here. It was like, let's get out.
The energy in that place is very strong. If you imagine you're just walking down a hallway and say you have 3 feet of personal space, as in a bubble, the longer you stand there, the smaller the bubble gets in that house. It's just like it just breaks down and breaks down, like it just crowds you in.
Yeah. No, I can understand what you're saying there. It wants to just, I don't know if it's trying to push you out of the house or it's just trying to make itself known when it comes down to that energy. But it is overwhelming at times. That closet being one of them. I can remember at one point I was doing everything I could just to stay in there. Finally I was like, I have to get out of here. I had to get out the door. I ended up just walking down the stairs just to kind of get away from that energy. It was very overbearing. Now another place where we had a lot of energy happening and a lot of stuff starting to happen was, I believe it's first floor. It was the doctor's office, Dr. Gibbons' office. At one point, we had a lot of really cool stuff happening in there. I don't know if you would want to call it cool. Jackie, you actually kind of made us kind of stand off to the side because this thing was a little crazy.
As I said, you didn't want to see what I saw. It was that large black shadow that they talk about, but I mean, it was almost bigger than the room, and it came on slowly, and it was like stalking us. And you two were in the bathroom, and I made you step back in the bathroom because it was going after Frankie, who was sitting there, but then it was also stalking you.
Yeah.
And I thought, I don't think you want to be anywhere around this shadow and stuff.
Yeah. I remember from the time where we just walked into the room to the time we got to the other side where the bathroom was, the energy shift in there was probably, even to this day, the craziest energy shift I've felt from just something happening in that room. It was hard. It was hard to explain at that time, and it still is hard to explain.
Well, there is another thing there. That was where the doctor saw patients and stuff, and there are rumors that he did perhaps molest some of his patients and everything. And as I was walking over to the one lady who was sitting in the corner, my hand touched an examination table. And for some reason, that table is so full of, all I can tell you is that there was a lot of forced sexual contact on that table. And the minute my hand touched that, I that went into me. I picked that up. So you're dealing with that, and you're dealing with this huge shadow, and this is what whispers is. It's not one thing at a time coming at you. It's several things surrounding you and coming at you.
Well, and that's what makes me want to go back so bad. Because everything there is just, it's a crazy energy. With that being said, let's get into the portal aspect of whispers, which is what it's known for. Well, one of the things it's known for, I would say. The Jackie, you want to explain portals? You've done a little bit more research on portals.
Yeah, pretty much portals are, think about a door. You have a door, you open your door, you go into the bedroom, you open your door, you go outside, you open your door, you go into somebody else. That's what a portal is, but think of it like energy. Instead of a regular door, it's energy, and it can be opened, it can be closed, they can also be locked. Learn that the hard way. And they take you or bring things from elsewhere. Don't ask me where. Is it on this earth? Not a lot of places. Some of them might be on this earth, but portals can open into, you want to call it dimensions, you want to call it other worlds, you want to call it the universe.
Yeah, different plane.
Yes,
possibly
different planes.
Anything.
Yeah. A portal is a door made of energy that allows things, people, to come and go.
Now, with that being said, Whispers has one that they claim runs from the first floor at the front corner of the house, all the way through the house, up into the attic. Now, we're going to go back to that front master bedroom on the second floor. While we were in there, we're starting to get that energy shift. We felt a portal opening. During that time, we realized Laura was laying on the bed. The portal runs right through that bed, correct?
Yes.
Now, Laura, do you want to try to give us an example of what you feel happened in that portal?
Well, to me, if you think of it as a tube and you're laying on top of it, it's just like the bottom just falls out and you're just like a free fall. That I guess would be the best way, a free fall. But the air is like trying to whoosh up around you at the same time.
Yeah.
Can you describe, I think what gives a really good example of a portal is when all this started happening and I looked over at you, it was like I told you I get off the bed. And can you describe how that felt from your side when I was trying to get you off the bed?
Well, from what I've been told, you said it numerous times, but I didn't hear the first few. And when I did hear it, it was like I went to get up, but it's like I just couldn't even sit up in order to turn to get off the bed. It's just like the free falling. It was like something literally was just sucking you down. So it felt impossible to get up. And it was like you thought that I wasn't really responding, but it was more that I just physically couldn't do it.
Now, during this time, I know that you have told us you lost time. You don't remember anything when that energy shift started happening, which is around the point where my hand and my arm were being, stepped on. I couldn't get them to move. Jackie felt like, basically the floor was coming out from underneath her. Whatever was in that closet was starting to kind of manifest or do whatever it was doing. It was very weird. That's when all of this energy shift started to happen. And Laura, you don't remember a thing about it.
Right. The entirety of us being in that room, I can recall Jackie saying, "Something's coming." I can recall you laying down in that doorway and you had like matchbox cars out that you were trying to interact with the child. And I remember you saying, I can't lift my arm up. My arm won't move. Those are the only two things I recall from the entire time we were in there until I just felt like I was falling and Jackie was yelling at me.
I did not yell. I used my mom's voice.
Well, and the thing is what it comes down to is there was a period of at least 5 minutes of stuff that happened between all of that Laura doesn't remember. It's at least 5 minutes. It was probably longer than that. But my memory's kind of, for some reason, telling me 5 to 7 minutes.
Probably longer than that, because at one point when I got up, I think I walked over to you to see if I could get your hand off or just move the energy away. And then, and somewhere in between that time, I saw Laura was going to be sucked into a portal.
Well, and then what ended up happening from that is after we finally got her out of that portal, we had to get her out of the house.
Yeah.
I had to take her outside. She actually ended up physically getting sick outside. Maybe from the energy, would you think?
Yeah, it was crazy energy, and it ungrounds you. Like she was talking about protection, and that's kind of one of the things that can help you. And one of the things that this isn't the first time we've had to ground. The energy gets you so scattered that you need to come back to earth to be grounded. And basically, when I say grounded, it's like get your feet on the floor, get outside, touch the grass,
Actually,
whatever.
yeah, when we went outside, I took my shoes and socks off.
Yeah.
And stood, off the concrete and onto the actual grass.
Yeah. And that's the what we want to talk about with portals is the energy that comes out of a portal, whether it's one way or another, whether it's coming out or it's going in, can be felt, and it can do different things to you. We've ran into quite a few different portals at different places. Whispers being one of the very first ones. How can a portal affect a person is kind of one of the big overall questions that different people have. And another one is for the people who are major skeptics, is a portal even real? For me, the energy is real, right? Basically, my head, my ears, like I can actually hear a portal when I get close to it. The energy is just so strong that I can feel it kind of in my brain and in my eardrums. Almost has a weird sound to it. I can feel the pressure of it, that type of energy. Jackie, does it have an effect on you that way?
Yeah. The best thing I remember about the Whispers portal is being a Star Trek fan when they beam people up, all the pretty little lights that are going straight up and down like in a tube. That's when I think of Whispers. That's what that portal looked and felt like to me. Is like just energy, like electric shocks running through your body. Also, since it's a doorway, when you open a door into something that's a different pressure, like if you're on a plane and you open the door when you're flying, there's going to be difference in air pressure and stuff. So you're getting pressure, you're getting energy, and it also, I believe, what comes out of the portal or goes through the portal also affects me, because Whispers portal, I was there when what came out, he told me he wasn't from Earth, but he tended to give me a headache. So it was more portal and him equals headache. When he didn't come out of the portal, then I didn't have the headache.
Okay. And then, Lord, I mean, does any type of energy like that affect you now that you know what it is?
I find it fascinating that I don't believe all portals are the same. I don't believe all two people experience the same portal in the same way. I don't know why that is, but for me, it's like they're all highways. They're all highways that go to different places from different places. So they're not going to be the same type of energy. At Whispers, it felt like whooshing wind. I've felt another portal before and there was no whooshing wind. So for me, the question from Whispers is, why is that one so different? Is it only if you're physically in the center of it? Is it you're only because I was there when it originally opened?
Yeah. And like I said, I mean, portals can be, there can be many different types of portals, is what we're starting to find out. The one that Whispers, like Jackie said, and Laura both said, think of it as tubular. Think of it as a large tube where things are moving up and down through that. And on that note, we need to finish today's episode. We will continue this discussion about portals and Whispers Estates on next episode. This has been Not Just Ghost Stories, and we have been your hosts, Josh,
Laura?
Jackie.
And until next time, you can find pictures and findings and contact us about today's episode on all social media platforms at Not Just Ghost Stories.